I just want to thank Danny first for making me stick behind Dan Gillis. That's one hell of an act to follow. So thanks for sticking around that long. Tonight, I'd like to tell you a story about my father. Most people call him Lee, even though our last name is pronounced Lai. It's just one of the nicknames you get when you move to a really white town in the 80s. My father's story isn't dissimilar to any other immigrant that comes to Canada. He just wanted a better life for his kids. I mean, he wanted to extend that better life to everyone in his family, so he endeavored to do so. But nothing ever goes as planned. You see, for the dozens of people my father helped to bring over the dozens of years it took to do so, there's just one person that we left behind. And it's that one person that we couldn't bring over, I think my father feels, it prevents him from completing his mission, or moreover, putting a happy ending on such a long and harrowed story. And that's the story I'd like to tell you tonight. So let me paint a picture for you. It's 1979. Vietnam is just fresh from a war, and that's the year my parents decide it's time to go. My sister Maya is 3 at the time, and she, along with everything else my parents cherished, are slung across their backs as they go across the ocean on one of 3 boats. 3 days out at sea, however, pirates attack their ships. Like actual pirates shoot at these boats. Sadly, 2 of the boats sink before their eyes, and as I'm told, all souls aboard those vessels are lost. Miraculously, my family ends up at a refugee camp somewhere off the coast of Indonesia. They're marooned on this island for about a year. While at this refugee camp, both my sister and mother contracted malaria, and my father soon realized that the only way to get medication to save them is to bribe one of the officials at the hospital. So he does. He gathers up everything they brought with him and gives it to this man. But he obtains the medicine, administers it, and saves both my mother and sister's lives. To this day, they have yet to replace their wedding bands. Meanwhile, in Walkerton, Ontario, 3 plucky families decided they wanted to save these victims of a pirate attack off the seas of Indonesia. And they do. Those 3 families, by the way, the Barnes family, the Inglis family, and the Ferris family. And before anybody asked me at the after party or any time after this, no, I did not know he did those things to those boys. He never did anything to me or my sister as far as I know. And I'm really not sure how I feel about him anymore. But that brings us to the year 1980. My family is sponsored, and they fly from Indonesia to Singapore, and in the month of May, they take their first footsteps onto Canadian soil at Pearson's International. We live with the Ferris family in Walkerton for about 6 months until my father lands a job in Guelph. And that brings us to the year 1984. This is a wonderful year. My parents had saved up enough money to put their first down payment on a house. And you'd think, 4 years into being in a new country and they're able to buy a house. It's a wonderful thing, but that's also the year my parents decided we are going to bring back everybody we left in Vietnam to Canada. So by the end of that year, my mother's sister and both of her parents are living under the same roof with us. And they moved to Toronto a year later. Big surprise. A few years later, my father's parents show up with 3 of his sisters and his brother as well. And by the end of that year, my uncle's fiance and my aunt's fiance are living with us as well. Over the next decade or so, more aunts come by and live with us. They bring their spouses, and their spouses' families come by, and they all live underneath our roof as well. Weddings are had, and we go. Babies are born, and we hug and kiss them, and all is right with the world. But then that brings us to 1996, and that's the year we left someone behind. You know, it was easy enough to bring my aunt and her 2 wonderful kids over, but whether it was through a tightening of immigration law or the fact that the same names kept popping up over and over again on that IMM 008 immigration form, we just couldn't bring my uncle over. No matter how many times we sent off that form, it just kept coming back declined. You know, and for all the times my father had to fill out that form and include information about income or proof of employment or how often another form got stamped or not, I think if my dad had the chance to change what was important about that form, he would include things about how important it is to keep families together and how meaningful it is to have a father in front of his children to watch them grow up versus behind a screen or a camera. And how, after almost 20 years of being alone, a woman can still remember to laugh, even though it's that much harder, and to smile, even though that's something easily to forget to do. And I think what I take away from most of this is that to only look at the negative of any given situation, regardless of how much gravity we put upon it, we're giving up time that could be better spent celebrating the fruits of our labor, or acknowledging the results of hard sacrifices and concerted effort. And moreover, the good work that can come out of 12 years of filling out forms. I think for my father's sake, he'd be missing the results of unwavering perseverance, dedication, and love. That's my father's story. Thanks for listening.